What's up, guys? It's Juice Audio back with another review. Today, we're talking about the Fluid Audio Image 2s. So, before we get started, I just want to say yes, I know it's been a long time since I've posted. A lot of changes have been going on in my life. As you can tell, my eyes are very black. I haven't been getting a lot of sleep, but it's for the better. Next year, there's going to be a lot of changes on this channel. I'll just say that. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about these monitors that I really, really love, actually. They're priced very affordably and they're available to a lot of people to buy. And they sound like high end monitors. So, we'll talk about that in detail today. So the thing about these monitors I really love is that they're kind of like a Frankenstein monitor. They kind of gathered the best of different companies and combined them into one monitor and made them affordable. I feel like they took the design from Barefoots. As you can see, they resemble those in the design. Barefoots are amazing. They have their pros and cons. And moving on to the next thing, they took something from Focal, which is the solo mode. A great feature on these speakers is that you can hit a foot switch and solo the mid monitor. So it's almost as if you were mixing on Avantones or Artones. And the next thing is they took ribbon tweeters that Adams are known for. So they kind of combined the best things from those companies to make this monitor, which is great. They listen to the people, they know what sounds good, and they know what works in home studios and professional studios. So these monitors come in at $18.99 each, and these to me are a very good value. They come with an insane amount of features. So these are a three-way design. They have two opposing subwoofers on each end, 5-inch midwoofer, and a 1-inch AMT driver, or people often call those ribbons. So this is a sealed box that has a huge waveguide on the front that we will talk about later. And these have 675 watts in each speaker, so a lot of power. So the crazy thing about this monitor is at this price, they have a huge amount of DSP integration. Pretty much everybody nowadays uses SonarWorks, but what you can do is import your SonarWorks file directly into these monitors. And this is a huge thing because I'm pretty sure they were doing this long before Adams started doing this in their monitors. And that is very impressive at this price range. And on the back of the speaker, of course, there's a ton of I/O capability, switching, and different EQ presets. So off the rip, let me just talk about this monitor. First thing first that I notice is that these are very, very flat monitors. They're not going to be overly impressive, and that is what you're buying these for. So the second thing I notice is that the soundstage is very, very accurate. The imaging is spot on, and they integrated all the speakers in this monitor to give you a very, very wide soundstage when you're in the center. So the thing about these is that these are midfield monitors. So you might not get away using these on a desk like how I did here in my studio. I had to scoot back a little bit. They have a very, very narrow dispersion. So what I mean by that is if you look at the waveguide, it is very sunken in to be time aligned with the other speakers, which is great. And those project the audio directly to your ears. So you're not going to be able to move pretty much at all if you're in midfield with these monitors. So the thing about that is that that is actually great in some studios and bad in other studios. In my studio, in the studios I took it in, that is great because I want the sound to hit my ears first before dispersing in the room and bouncing around all the walls and coming back to me. So that gave me precise imaging and soundstage for where I was sitting. When you're in midfield, you have, a good amount of room to move around and hear the sounds, but once you step off, the sound is completely lost. So in home studios, we don't have that much crazy treatment going on. So that works perfect for us. But if you have a very, very well treated studio and you want a very wide sweet spot moving around, these monitors might not work for you. So I'm going to talk about my favorite feature next, which is the solo mode. If you guys know, I'm a die-hard fan of Avantones and Artones. Those completely changed my mixing game. And no matter when I'm mixing, I always have to have those because I just love them so much. So the great thing about these is that they actually give you a foot switch in the box that you connect to these speakers and you hit that foot switch, and what it does is change the tuning, that overtone sound in these speakers. And to me, that is insanely useful. I don't have to have overtones on my desk anymore. I don't have to rely on those anymore. These are kind of just like the all-in-one studio monitor to me. And another good thing is that these are sealed, so they have that same fast, that same transient response that the Artones have in their sealed boxes. On Focals, when they do the mid solo mode, those mids are still ported, so they're not as fast. So I love this feature. It should be a feature on every monitor made. So moving on to the bass. So these are dual opposing 8-inch woofers. That is a lot of power coming from one speaker. So the bass, the way I can describe the bass on these is that they go very, very low. The bass hits massive for these small speakers. And the thing about dual opposing speakers, like I mentioned in my Kali Audio subwoofer review, is that they have a certain tone to them. They're very clean and they play like a sine wave bass. It's very clean and it's unnoticeable. So your ears don't even think that there's a subwoofer there. It just sounds like it's coming from the front of your speakers. Some people might not like that sound. It's a very clean texture. Some people might want that like crazy oomph like the KSDs have. But I'm a big fan of this type of subwoofer for mixing because it's just so clean. So the sound signature of these speakers is very raw and very flat. Some people might not like ribbon tweeters. I totally get it. Ribbons can be done badly. When I listen back to old ribbons, they really don't sound that great. These ones are pretty solid for the money. They're not the best ribbons I've heard. I've definitely heard better from Heads or the new Atoms, but these are very transparent, very clean, very clear and fast. The mids, like I mentioned, are sealed, so they have a very fast response, and they're a large speaker too. A 5-inch woofer on this little monitor really gives you the low mids directly from this mid. So I love that about these. In some monitors, the low mids are carried over to the subs on the side, and I don't like the sound of that. It just sounds unnatural. So having the full main spectrum coming out of these mids is great. But the best part about these monitors is they play the loudest I've ever heard out of any monitor I've ever reviewed here. Like they literally do not top out. I tried to get them to top out, couldn't do it. My ears are hurting insanely before I could do that. So that is crazy. They have an insane amount of power. If you need that power to impress clients and keep clean mixes, these are great for that. The translation is great on these because it gives you basically 2-in-1 speakers. You can have the full range sound or the 5-inch mids and just mixing on those. I prefer mixing on just the mids for majority of the track. And then when you switch over back to the full spectrum of the sound, it sounds crazy. It sounds massive and you can really dial in the mix this way. So yeah, that's all I have to say about these monitors. I really like them. And if you're in the market for 308s like this, I would definitely give these a try in your room first before you buy. And that's it for this review. See you later.